The hunted has become the hunter. That's what President Donald Trump told the press when they asked him, why, oh, why would you want a giant American flag or two giant American flags on the White House lawn?
What gave you the idea to do this?
I've had it for a long time. In the first term I had it, but you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference. Big difference.
I had this idea in the first term for two ginormous flags on either side of the White House, the North Lawn and the South Lawn. But then you guys came after me, he told the media. You guys came after me. You tied me up with bogus impeachments and bogus investigations, and you hobbled my staff because they were up there on Capitol Hill answering to subpoenas and getting questioned ad nauseum. But now I'm back. There's no restrictions on me, and the hunted has become the hunter. Only President Donald Trump can take a flag raising and turn it into something totally scary for the left, the Democrats, the lunatics, and the socialists in the American media. But they did take the opportunity also to ask him some other poignant questions, and the big question, the one that continues to loom large, is what will happen with Iran and Israel and the United States of America? Is there a plan for the United States of America to enter the war, to attack Iran, to make direct strikes against their nuclear facilities, and to once and for all make sure that, as Donald Trump has demanded, Iran never, ever, ever gets a nuclear weapon?
Some of the people in the base don't want a long-term war. They're afraid that we're going to get into a long-term war.
We're not looking for a long-term war. We're looking. I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Right.
That's it. I'm not looking long-term, short-term. And I've been saying that for 20 years. I've been saying it as a civilian who got a lot of publicity. People would cover it. Very simply, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. It's not a question of anything else. And if you did, you wouldn't have much of a country, because they would use it on us and they'd use it on other people, and there'd be a terror all over the world.
Yeah, that's something that I think we can all agree on. Donald Trump speaking to reporters on the White House lawn, while workers behind him, who he was really excited to talk to and who were, of course, very excited to speak with him as well, were raising these two flagpoles high over the White House, showing again American domination. And Donald Trump saying, I never understood why, since 1800, since the White House had been erected and presidents had been living here, I never understood why there weren't giant flagpoles. And now, as a gift to the United States of America, President Donald Trump, out of his own pocket, has erected these two flags. Marco Rubio also spoke. He was asked about what's going on in Iran, and he wanted to set the record straight about Iran's nuclear capabilities. There's been some questions about whether or not Iran actually is getting closer and closer to a nuclear weapon. Tulsi Gabbard had some comments earlier that the press tried to twist and turn and make sound like she was siding with Iran and not Israel, and taking a different stance than the president of the United States. So Marco Rubio said, look, here's exactly what we're dealing with when it comes to Iran. The percentages of uranium enrichment are not exactly what you're describing them to be.
When you say 60, that's misleading when people hear that number, because they think 60% enrichment and 90% is what you need for a weapon. Actually, 90% of the work it takes to get to weapons grade enrichment is getting to 60. Once you're at 60, you're 90% of the way there. You are, in essence, a threshold nuclear weapons state, which is what Iran basically has become. They are at the threshold of a nuclear weapon. If they decided to do so, they could do so very quickly. If they stockpile enough of that 60% enriched, they could very quickly turn it into 90 and weaponize it. That's the danger we face right now. That's the urgency here. That's why Israel feels urgency about it, and that's why we feel urgency about it, but not just us. Throughout the Gulf region, no country in the region wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And you also talk about not just a weapon, they have long-range missiles that they can deliver those weapons to. This is a very grave risk. And they are enriching at that level, and they're openly doing it, by the way. In fact, their Congress, their legislative branch, actually passed a law requiring them to enrich at a certain level because JCPOA, the Obama deal with Iran, was canceled. So this is a critical moment. The president has made it a priority, and now people understand the urgency here because they are fairly close, too close for comfort, to a nuclear weapon. We have to roll that back one way or another, and we hope it's peacefully and through the process of negotiation.
Yeah, the state sponsor of terrorism label that people have put on Iran is not just, a quirky label. It's exactly what they are. They're state sponsors of terror. They're parliament or their Senate or whatever Marco Rubio tried to describe it as, has indeed passed laws demanding that they create nuclear weapons for the destruction of America, the annihilation of Americans, and also the entire destruction of the state of Israel. In their Congress, in their Senate, in their parliament, they have openly chanted death to America. They have set a timer, a time clock for 2040, by which time they fully expect that they will have wiped Israel off the face of the planet. And that is why Israel has launched these strikes, and that is why Donald Trump is supporting the strikes, Biden and Netanyahu and the Israelis. And that is why there's a big question about what's going to happen in the future if Iran does not fully surrender as Donald Trump has demanded.
No, they had bad intentions. For 40 years they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. War is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won anything yet. I would say that we sure as hell made a lot of progress, and we'll see. The next week is going to be very big, maybe less than a week, maybe less. But is there anybody here that said it would be okay to have a hostile, very, zealots really, but to have a hostile country have a nuclear weapon that could destroy 25 miles, but much more than that, could destroy other nations just by the breeze blowing the dust. That dust blows to other nations and they get decimated. This is just not a threat you can have. And we've been threatened by Iran for many years. If you go back and look at my history, if you go back 15 years, I was saying we cannot let Iran get a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time, and I mean it more now than I ever meant it.
Yeah, because he's president and he can do something about it. President Donald Trump is sending the message over and over and over again. He's making sure that everybody understands here at home. He's making sure that everybody understands in Iran. He's making sure everybody understands around the world that the United States' stance is pretty clear. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's a mantra. It's one that he repeats over and over. And it's one that, of course, the majority of the United States of America also supports. Here is a poll from CNN. And the only reason I air this today is because it shows that Donald Trump is not acting alone. He's not a lone wolf in this. Donald Trump is not somebody who is unilaterally taking a step to disarm Iran. This is something that is very popular with both parties in the United States of America.
And overall, I feel like there's more support for Donald Trump's positions than is comically acknowledged. Oppose Iran getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, look at this. 79% of adults agree on that. They agree with Donald Trump. Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. 83% of Republicans, 79% of independents, 79% of Democrats. When you get 79% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans agreeing on anything, you know that that position is the very clear majority in this country. And so the American public is with Donald Trump. They definitely oppose Iran getting nuclear weapons.
83% of Republicans, 79% of Democrats, the majority of the United States of America, all adults say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And that is something that, of course, Donald Trump has been saying over and over and over again. And he offered them the ability to make a deal. In fact, people have been pinpointing, the media especially, saying, well, you pulled us out of the Iran nuclear deal, which was a horrible deal, and which would have allowed Iran to eventually have a nuclear weapon, which is not what we wanted. We didn't want inspectors. We wanted the entire dismantling of the Iranian nuclear program, because this is a crazy regime. This is a state sponsor of terror. And these are people that just cannot be trusted, as Donald Trump pointed out. And he said, look, I know that you guys are all about the Iran nuclear deal. And I know that you guys were all hell bent out of shape when I pulled us out of it. But it was a horrible deal. And I offered them a new one, and they should have taken it.
Look, they should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days we talked about it, and in the end they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet, but it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet, and they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that, but it's a shame it could have been done the easy way.
Iran may come to the White House. This is an incredible piece of breaking news. This is an incredible step forward. Think about this. Iran is getting so bombarded and so pummeled by Israel in this battle. And even though Iran is shooting missiles back and forth, and even though Iran is doing their best, they don't have near the capacity to handle a major conflict with Israel, let alone a major conflict with Israel and the full force of the United States of America. I mean, our Air Force is about 100 times bigger than any other countries, and Israel has been doing a bang-up job so far. But for the Iranians to want to approach Donald Trump and say, we will even come to the White House, we're interested in making a deal, shows that there is forward momentum and forward movement, and that something probably will be done before this escalates. Donald Trump, however, wants to be very clear. There is no ceasefire agreement here. This has got to be a full dismantling of the nuclear program. And in fact, he called out French President Emmanuel Macron, who reported when Donald Trump left the G7, he said, Donald Trump is going back to the White House so he can make a ceasefire agreement between Iran and Israel. And Donald Trump said, that's just false. That is not, he said, that's just not true. I don't know why that French dude is lying.
He said I was going back home to make a ceasefire. Not a ceasefire. We're long beyond ceasefire. And I said, why do you say that? Why would you say ceasefire? It's a bad term to use. Because a ceasefire means like everything's going swimmingly, we'll take a little time off. It's not. We're not looking for a ceasefire. We're looking for a total, complete victory. Again, you know what the victory is. No nuclear weapon.
Mr. President.
So I thought it was a very badly worded statement by him, and obviously I let him know that.
Yeah, I said, Macron, what are you doing? You did, shut up. Shut up. Fermez la bouche. We don't need you saying ceasefire when we're talking about the total disarmament of the Iranian people. We're not looking for a ceasefire. We're looking for an end to this and any future conflict once and for all. And that means no nuclear weapons for Iran. Somebody asked about the Fordo nuclear facility, and one of the real sticking points, or one of the reasons why people believe that Donald Trump may have some kind of may be looking toward a strike on Iran, is because of this nuclear bunker, the enrichment center that is buried underneath a mountain. And the Israeli bombs can, they can do a little bit of damage, but they can't penetrate. They just don't have those bunker busters, those deep earth, those bombs that can embed themselves down in the ground and then create such destruction that they destroy anything and everything below the Earth's surface. The United States of America does have that. And a reporter asked, is that something that is on the table? Is that something that is mandatory? And Donald Trump said, well, look, I'm not going to relay my plans to why would I do that?
The destruction or the dismantling of the Fordo nuclear enrichment center, is that a prerequisite for a deal? Is that a red line for you?
No, it's just something that people talk about having. We're the only ones that have the capability to do it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it at all. Yeah, we have the best military equipment in the world. You see that with this fight. We have planes that are undetectable, flying around like, nobody's able to see them stealth. You guys want to be stealthy tonight. You can be stealth, you'll never lose, right? But these are incredible planes and weapons. We have the best weapons in the world, by far. Nobody close. And certain countries take advantage of that. Israel has incredible weaponry. So we'll see what happens. I've been asked about it by everybody, but I haven't made a decision.
I haven't given an order. I haven't said, all right, we are no go for takeoff. None of that has yet happened. Donald Trump is still trying to figure out a peaceful diplomatic solution to end this war. And if Iran is coming to the White House, well, then that would be one step in the right direction. He was asked, however, what if the Iranians refuse to make a deal? What then? Here's his advice, or here were his words of wisdom for the Supreme Leader.
What do you say to the Supreme Leader of Iran says that they will not?
Say good luck.
What is the end game?
Say it.
I say good luck. I said spoken the only way Donald Trump could. Speaking of good luck, the One Big Beautiful Bill continues to gain momentum, and the One Big Beautiful Bill continues to move forward as President Donald Trump continues to sell the One Big Beautiful Bill, and he's pushing everybody in his administration out to talk about it. I mean, everybody from Scott Bessent to Kelly Loeffler to Dr. Oz, who was making the case with Jake Tapper on CNN for the One Big Beautiful Bill and trying to, again, counter the rumors and the fallacies and the flat out lies about the One Big Beautiful Bill destroying Medicaid for Americans who need it.
How can you be sure that the vulnerable enrollees who depend upon Medicaid will continue to get it? You say that you want to protect them. How can you make sure that they will be protected?
I took this job to do just that, protect our most vulnerable. And yet the plans that I've been asked to preside over, Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act exchanges in particular, are not stable programs. Medicaid spending has increased 50% in the last 5 years. And a major driver of that are the able-bodied individuals who joined the program, and half of which these individuals don't work, and many of them could work. I actually think work is a good thing in general. The economy needs more people to work. We've got twice as many jobs as our people seeking them. But in particular for Medicaid, the problem we run into is if we allow able-bodied individuals on Medicaid to get a 90% match from the federal government, states game the system. So let's go over the several accusations that I heard in those several packages. First off, we already know what happens when you take people off Medicaid. We just did it for the last 2 years. Under the Biden administration, 15 million people were disenrolled from Medicaid. 15 million. The uninsured rate went up about 10%. Went up 1.5 million people. So the vast majority of Americans, and I have confidence in the Americans' people, if you give people a chance to work or volunteer, participate in your community, go get an education, or lose your insurance, they take the job over that. And so the estimates that we're seeing are made by economists, but it's a behavioral analysis. It's a psychology analysis. Will you take the deal?
And that is something that that is been a problem for a long time. People on Medicaid who don't need it or can supplement their own insurance. And these are part of the Doge cuts. This is part of the waste, fraud, and abuse that Donald Trump and Elon Musk and a bunch of other people working in our federal government right now have been able to root out. You've got folks who are taking advantage, gaming the system. Those are the people that they're going to remove from Medicaid and Medicare, not the able-bodied, not the folks who are not able-bodied and cannot work and cannot get their own insurance. It's the people who are, again, taking advantage of the government. And when you take advantage of the government and you take advantage of the system, you're taking advantage of the people and the taxpayers, because this is still a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And Donald Trump had a very stark warning while he was watching the flag of the United States of America get raised up on the South Lawn and the North Lawn, while he was talking with the workers who were putting in an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, while he was doing all of that, Donald Trump had a very stern warning for any and all senators who may be thinking about voting against the One Big Beautiful Bill in the Senate.
I mean, anybody that votes against it, they voted to give a 68% tax increase and many other benefits. There would be no money for the border. You know, we have billions of dollars allocated to immigration, the border, keeping criminals out, getting criminals out too. If that doesn't pass, you'll get a 68% tax increase. And I would say this, any senator that votes against it, and that includes Democrats, I think they'll be finished in politics.
Look at that. Anybody who votes against it, any senator who votes against the One Big Beautiful Bill, I believe they will be finished in politics. I don't know if that's a threat or a promise or a prediction or all three, but that is Donald Trump's message to anyone voting against the One Big Beautiful Bill. You're hurting Americans, you're increasing taxes, and you're probably destroying your own political career. Listen, we've got so much more to cover later today in Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. We have a second daily podcast, and you can hear it anywhere you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify or iTunes, whether you want to go on Spreaker or iHeartRadio. We're omnipresent, and every single day we have more news, more information. We've got more commentary. We've got long form and interviews and all sorts of great stuff so that you can continue to stay informed and inspired and enlightened. And all you have to do is go to your favorite podcast provider, search for Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, download, listen, and enjoy.